So a lot of people have been asking me, how long have you been learning French? So let's talk about it. So I started French in high school. We were required to do it when I was in second form, 8th grade. I loved French. I fell in love with it. I just love the language so much. So I continued doing it up until grade 11, and then I did an exam in it. After that, I stopped. Random, but I just remembered we actually entered a French competition. I don't remember what it was called. I think it was Le Concours de Vocabulaire. And we went to Kingston with Alliance Française in Jamaica, and we did the competition, and we won 2 years in a row. So, wow! I genuinely forgot about that. But yeah, that's a fun fact. After that, I stopped doing French for a couple of years, and I didn't start again until I was in university. It was the pandemic, the height of the pandemic, when we're all staying at home. One day I was just really curious because I kept seeing everyone talking about Duolingo, and I downloaded the app, and I used Duolingo every day because I was convinced that I would have become fluent from doing Duolingo every single day. So I had like a 90-day streak. I was always doing the exercises. I did multiple exercises. I even was in the race thingy to get to the highest thing, you know, the ruby, emerald, that stuff. If you use Duolingo, you know what I'm talking about. I was in that every week, and I was winning. So I was convinced that I would have been fluent. Then I had to choose an elective from a course, and I decided to do basic French or beginner French, and it was very, very beginner. It was more like the things I learned when I was in high school, so it was like a refresher for me. We didn't even learn conjugation. When January came in 2021, I decided that I wanted to learn French fluently. So I started to make a plan, I started doing some research, and I think that's when I actually started loving language learning, and I decided that I wanted to learn multiple languages. I remember going onto German Pod, French Pod. I went on French Pod on YouTube to listen to their absolute beginner lesson, and I understood absolutely nothing. I was frustrated because at this point I was convinced that I should have been fluent in French, or at least close to fluency in French. Then I realized that I had to go back to the drawing board and do everything all over again to make sure that I was actually progressing in the language. I created a plan. I started to learn the conjugations again, started refreshing them in my head and everything, and I made notes, and I started learning the direct object pronouns and things like that. And that lasted for like 2 weeks because at that time I was in 3rd year. That was the worst semester of my life, so I just forgot about French, and that continued all through 2021. And then 2022 started, my final year. I wanted to get back into language learning. I started getting back into language learning because of Arabic, but then I realized that I would have to start back French because it wouldn't make any sense. I started French from 2020 and then just completely stopped it. So I decided to start it back again. While I was doing my exams, I would take breaks from studying and study French and study the other languages as well. Last year, I was convinced I was almost fluent in French. I have no idea why I thought that, but that couldn't have been further from the truth because I was struggling so bad. And then I had these really high expectations of myself, and I wasn't fulfilling those expectations, which made me even more frustrated. And then of course I experienced a lot of language plateaus. I'll make a lot of progress and I'm going up, and then eventually I just stopped, and then it just felt like I wasn't doing anything, and it just went all the way back down. That was literally what it was like, going up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. At some point I was having problems with vocabulary, so I downloaded a vocabulary PDF, and then I got used to that. Then I realized that I didn't know conjugation, so I had to go and I started to learn how to conjugate verbs again, which is how I created my Excel sheet. Then I realized that I had problems with understanding spoken French. I started listening to that, and then when I got comfortable, I realized that there was verlan and l'argot and slang, and I couldn't understand those, even though I still struggle with that. For last year, it was literally just me overcoming an obstacle, getting to another point, overcoming that obstacle, getting to another point, overcoming that obstacle, getting to another point, and that just continued throughout 2022. I still struggle with French. There are a lot of things I need to learn with it. I don't consider myself to be fluent, and the more I learn French is the more that I realize that I don't know French because there's always so much more left to learn. I've just lowered my expectations of myself, and I'm just going along with the journey and enjoying the journey. I do want to get to fluency, but I can't get to fluency unless I actually focus on what I need to do to get there. Hence, the journey is more important than destination. If you want to see all the resources I've ever used to learn French and get to my current level, then you can check out this ebook right here. Happy learning.